Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing great. So today we're going to learn about a new concept, new topic, which is accruals and prepayments. Okay, so here we have four different type of adjustments that we need to learn. Okay, for accruals and prepayments, there would be expenses and income, both in terms of accruals and prepayments. We will have accrued expenses, accrued income, we will have prepaid income and prepaid expenses. So what is it and how do we account for it in our accounting books? Let's learn about it. Okay. First thing that we have is accrued expenses. Okay. What is it? Accrued expenses is the expenses incurred during the current year but have not yet been paid. Okay. Expenses incurred during the current year but not yet have been paid. So it means that we have taken benefit of these services. Of, for example, you have incurred the rent, you have used the premises, and you are yet to pay rent. Your rent is due. You have not actually made the payment for it. Okay, that is your expenses incurred but not paid. Okay, in smaller terms, expenses that you've incurred in the current year but have not paid in the current year. Okay, so usually for this we have an adjustment, like whenever you are given with the question, you will have an adjustment at the end of the question where they will say that this expense of this amount is owed. Okay, I'll give you one example too. They might say that rent is still owed by $500. Okay, rent is accrued by $500. So what does it mean? It means that I have actually used the premises, but I have not made the payment for the rent yet. Okay, so again, you have taken the benefits, but you have not made the payment for it. Okay, this is going to be my current liability. This accrued expenses are going to be my current liability. Usually it is shown as the balance which is accrued or balance which is owed. Owed means that we have to pay, okay, a liability. So this is a part of your current liability. Any accrued expense is going to be a part of your current liability. Why? Because it is going to be paid within the next 12 months, right? Because again, you will be paying it in the next 12 months, right? Now, that is clear. Now, next thing is how do I treat it in my financial statements? Okay, so I've told you as this is my current liability, so it will be shown as a current liability in your statement of financial position. Coming on to statement of profit or loss, how do I show it in statement of profit or loss? As it is a liability, okay, as it is a liability, it should have, there will be two things, okay, there will be two things. There will be first thing as opening accruals and closing accruals. Okay. Opening accruals means expenses that were incurred last year but have not or but was not paid in the last year were paid during the current year. Okay. Expenses that were incurred last year but not paid. during the last year. And closing accruals are expenses incurred during current year but not paid yet. Okay, so now this opening accrual is my opening liability. Closing accrual is my closing liability, because obviously when I make the payment for any expense, I will first pay the balance which is due before, right? All right. So this is going to be for everything, opening and closing balances. Okay, opening balances for accrued expenses are a part of last year, closing balances are a part of current year. Opening accruals are something that should not be included in our balances of expenses taken to statement of profit or loss, because that is a part of last year. My statement of profit and loss says that the balances which belongs to the current year. What does statement of profit or loss says? Statement of profit or loss says that balances which belong to the current year should only be included. Okay, so this opening accruals is not part of it. Closing accruals is, yes, it is part of it. So when I make the payment, obviously I will first make it for this opening balances, right? So I will subtract it from my payments and I will add the closing balance because I have not yet made the payment for it, but it is a part of my expense. Okay, okay. Let's learn how to make a performer, because sometimes in exam they might ask you state the balance of expenses that is going to be taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay, so what do you do in that scenario? You take the payments made. Okay, payments made for expense, let's say rent. Okay, let's take rent. For rent during the year. Okay, then we will add closing accrued balance for rent. It means that this expense balance has been incurred but not yet been paid. It has been incurred during the current year only. Accrued balance for rent, and we will subtract opening accrued balance for rent. What I'm gonna get after this, you will get a balance of rent taken to statement of profit or loss as an expense. My statement of profit or loss says that irrespective if you pay the money or not, you have to include that expense during the current year if you incurred it in the current year. This is our matching concept, accrual concept. Okay, this is how you do it in a proper format. Let's learn how to do it in a ledger account format too. Okay, now if I have to prepare a ledger account, because sometimes you might have to prepare ledger accounts as well. Okay, now opening accrual, I told you, is my opening liability, and liabilities always have a credit balance. Okay, so balance brought down What is this opening accrual? Now, opening balance and closing balance are always opposite for each other. Then my closing balance will be on debit side. Closing accrual. After that, you will be taking the payments that you have made for the expenses. Okay, whenever you make a payment, the journal entry for that is going to be bank credit, bank credit, and your expenses account debit, because expenses are always debited. So what is it? Journal entry for payments of expenses. That is going to be expenses account debit and bank credit, because money is going out of bank, right? So on expense in expenses account on debit side, I'm gonna write bank. This is payments made. Now I know everything. The balancing figure here will be your balance taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay. Expense taken to statement of profit or loss. What is it? It's going to be my balancing figure. Okay. One more thing, that journal entry for transferring expenses to statement of profit or loss at the year end. That would be your statement of profit or loss debit and your expenses account credit. See, whenever any expense is transferred from the ledger accounts to statement of profit or loss, statement of profit or loss is always debited, and opposite is for incomes. In terms of income, statement of profit or loss is always credited. As you can see, the expenses account is being credited here, right? So this is the balance of expense I'm going to take to my statement of profit or loss. And this is going to be balancing figure of all these balances. Usually this is the case that we are given with the payments made, we are given with the opening and closing accruals. You have to find the balance that you will be taking to your statement of profit or loss. Usually we also have sometimes accrued incomes, or sorry, accrued expenses and prepaid expenses. Okay, so we need to take account of prepaid expenses as well. We're going to learn that a little bit later, but this is all for our accrued expenses. How do I take out the balance that is going to be taken to statement of profit or loss? What is the balance taken to statement of financial position? Closing accrued liability, closing accrued expense. Okay. In statement of financial position, what is going to be closing balance? Closing accrued expense is going to be current liability in my statement of financial position. Let's make a note of it as well. Closing accrued expenses will be shown as current liability in statement of financial position. Okay, let's erase it. Okay, Now, how will I show it in my statement of financial position? Extract. Okay. Extract would be under current liabilities. First of all, you will have your trade payables. These are your credit suppliers. Then either you're going to write down accrued expense name, for example, accrued rent, or it is usually as a part of other payables. Every accrued expense can be added to other payables. Okay. So how do we show it? In other payables. What do we show? At closing accrued expense, only closing accrued expense. Okay. And in statement of profit or loss, what do we do? Payments made plus closing accruals minus opening accruals. Okay. This opening accruals does not belong to the current year, therefore we need to subtract it from the payments, and closing accruals belongs to the current year but not yet paid, therefore we need to add it to our payments. So this is all for your accrued expenses. Now let's come to accrued incomes. Okay, accrued income is same thing, that income earned but not yet received. Okay, for you. For example, you have provided the services, okay, but you have not received the money for it. Okay, what does it mean? It means that services are provided, that you provided the services or goods majorly. You provided the services but not received payment or money for it. Okay, now what is it? Accrued income is your current asset, because this is the money that people owe to us. This is a receivable. Okay, current asset. Okay, so how do I show it in my statement of financial position? Current asset. First of all, you will have trade receivable. Now, trade receivables are your credit customers. No, you do not show it in credit customers. Next is other receivables, or it can also be said as accrued income. Okay, it's an asset going to be shown in statement of financial position. Okay, as an asset, the closing balance in other receivables. Okay, or accrued income. Similarly, for other payables here, for your accrued expenses, it can also be said accrued expenses. Okay. Now, what do I show here? Closing balance. What do I show here? Closing balance of accrued income. Like accrued income at the end of the year. Now we have learned how to put it in our statement of financial position. Next thing is to learn how to put it in statement of profit or loss. Statement of profit or loss will be including the same thing as we did in accrued expenses. What I'm going to do is in statement of profit or loss, I'm going to include income which belongs to the current year only. It means that I will have a opening accrued income or a closing accrued income. Okay, so the same treatment as we did for expenses, we need to minus the opening accrued and we need to add the closing accrued, because opening accrued income, let's write it down. Okay, What do we have? We have opening accrued income. Okay. Opening accrued income is income which I earned last year but was not paid. Okay. So this is gonna be income earned last year but will be received during the current year. So this is not the balance that is for the current year, right? This is the last year's balance. I need to subtract it from my payments received, income received. Okay. Then next thing now we have is closing accrued expenses, closing accrued income, not expenses. Closing accrued income will again be your income earned during the current year but not received yet. Okay. Income earned during the current year but not received yet. So opening accrued income, what did I say? Opening accrued income is subtracted, closing accrued income will be added. Let's make a pro forma for this as well, like we did for the expenses. Okay, so we already know that this accrued income will be shown in the current assets in your statement of financial position as either accrued income or other part of other receivables. What will we include? Closing balance of accrued income. Okay. Now let's see how to make the pro forma for it and ledger account as well. Okay. Now as it's an income account and incomes are usually credited, whereas accrued income is an asset for me. What did I say? Accrued income is a current asset for me, right? So current assets have an opening balance. Let's prepare. So the pro forma for it will be on the basis of we will say payments received during the year minus opening accrued income plus closing accrued income, and then the balance of income taken to statement of profit or loss. This is usually for interest received, majorly interest received, commission received. Okay, and it will be a part of your other income. Okay, it will be a part of your other income in statement of profit or loss. What other income? Which is added after gross profit. Okay, now if you have to prepare a ledger account, so let's prepare a ledger account. Ledger account will be on the basis of same thing. Now this opening balance is my asset, and assets usually have a debit opening balance. So balance brought down, what is it? This is my accrued income. Okay, balance brought down and carried down are opposite. Balance carried down. This is your closing accrued income. Okay, this is opening accrued, that is closing accrued. Now again, I would have received money, right? So that means bank account debit and income account credit, because incomes are majorly credited. So bank account debit, income account credit. So on the credit side of income, I'm gonna write down bank, that I received the money. Payments received. Okay. Then the balancing figure will be your statement of profit or loss, and it will always be on debit side in case of accrued income, only in case of accrued income. Okay, it's gonna be balancing figure. Okay, balancing figure, this is income taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay, then we will take a total, we'll balance the account. Okay, and bring down the closing balance to the next year. This thing is important when you're preparing ledger accounts. Bring down the closing balance to the next year's opening. So balance brought down, this closing is opening here. Okay, simple as that. This is how we prepare ledger accounts, and the other format, this is how we do in terms of if you have to find it in a format way. Don't have to prepare a ledger account. Okay, so this is it about accrued income, where we have learned how to put it in statement of financial position, how to put it in statement of profit or loss, then how to prepare a ledger account, right? One more thing that we are left with, the journal entries of taking income to statement of profit or loss at the end of the financial year. Journal entries. So first thing first, journal entry to transfer income to statement of profit or loss at the year end. That is gonna be your income account debit and statement of profit or loss credit. You need to understand one thing, that expenses are debited to statement of profit or loss and incomes are credited to statement of profit or loss. Okay. Another journal entry of when we receive payments, bank account debit, income account credit. Okay. So now here we are done with accrued expenses and accrued income. Next thing that we need to learn is prepaid expenses and prepaid income. Okay, so prepaid expenses would be expenses you have paid for in advance but are yet to receive the services. Again, expenses for which you have paid in advance but yet to receive the benefits. Okay, so it means that you have paid for that particular thing, but you are yet to receive the services. So either you will be provided with the services, or you will be provided with the benefits, or you will be provided with your money back, right? So either we are provided with the services and the benefits for it, or we will be provided with our money back, right? So this again is my other receivable, basically your current asset. Okay, because you are yet to receive the benefits or the money back, right? So in your statement of financial position, again, how will we show it? As current asset. Okay, under current asset, first again you will have other receivables, trade receivable, inventory, all the other current assets. Okay, okay, as other receivables or as prepaid expenses. So we have learned so far that other receivables include one, prepaid expenses, okay, and other, your accrued income, okay. So we add both of them and include it in other receivables, or we show both of them separately, accrued income first and then prepaid expenses. So it can be either a part of other receivables or it can be like current assets. Usually we, most of the time, okay, most of the time we show both of them as a part of other receivables. So both balances will be added to other receivable balance, but it can also be shown as accrued income and prepaid expenses. Okay, so this is how you show in your statement of financial position. Again, it's an asset for me, so will be shown in the current assets. Okay, now after we are done with the statement of financial position, okay, or let's keep it. Next thing is how you put it in your statement of financial position. Okay, in statement of financial position, we have learned how to put here. Next thing is how to put it in statement of profit or loss. Okay, again we have a format. Okay, now we have two balances. Let's see. First thing is you have opening prepaid expenses. Okay, what are opening prepaid expenses? Opening prepaid expenses are the expenses that were paid in advance during last year. Okay, during last year, but belongs to current year. Okay, then we will have closing prepaid expenses. Closing prepaid expenses are paid in advance during the current year, but belongs to next year. Okay, it means will be incurred in the next year. I will receive the benefits in the next year. So as per my accrual concept, matching concept, I only include the balances which belongs to the current year in my statement of profit or loss, right? So what I'm gonna do here is format will be, okay, payments made for expenses during the year, then add opening prepaid because these were not paid during the year but belongs to the current year. So add opening prepaid income, add opening prepaid expenses, and minus closing prepaid expenses. Okay, and then you get balance of expenses taken to statement of profit or loss. This belongs to the current year, this does not belong to the current year, simple as that. Okay, so we have learned how to do it in the format way. Now I need to tell you that prepaid expenses are just the opposite of accrued expenses. In accrued expenses, we used to minus the opening and add the closing, right? In prepaid, it's the opposite. Okay. Now, next thing that we need to learn is to prepare the ledger account. I'm going to do it on this side, on my left side. Okay. Now, as it is an asset, opening balance should be on debit side. Assets have an opening balance on debit side. Balance brought down. What is it? Opening prepaid. Opening prepayments. Okay. Balance, carry down, balance, brought down, and carry down are opposite of each other. What is this? Closing prepayments. Okay. This is done. Then again, the payment I made for expenses, the journal entry for that would be expenses account debit. Expenses are always debited, and your bank account credit. So I'm gonna write here on the debit side of expense bank. What is this? Payments made. And the balancing figure, which will be on credit side, will be statement of profit or loss. Expenses taken to statement of profit or loss. So basically expenses that belong to the current year. Okay. Then we take a total of it, and then we bring down the closing balance to the opening of next year. Okay. This is how we prepare a ledger account in case of prepaid expenses. Okay. Once we are done with all four parts of it, I'm going to show you a combination of both for expenses and income, accrued and prepayments. Okay. All right. So this is about prepaid expenses. In statement of financial position as a current asset under other receivables, in your statement of profit or loss, you take the payments made during the year, you minus the closing prepaid expenses, and you add the opening prepaid expenses because that belongs to the current year. You will get the balance that you have incurred during the current year, and that will be taken to statement of profit or loss as an expense. Okay, and will be subtracted there. All right. Moving forward to the last component of accruals and prepayments, which is prepaid income. Now, prepaid income is income received in advance but not on yet. Now, income received in advance but not on yet is a liability for me. Why? Because I have received the money but I have not provided the services. So either I'm liable to provide the services or I'm liable to give them the money back, right? So this is going to be a part of your current liability. So in your statement of profit or loss, you will be taking the same treatment as you did for prepaid expenses. But in your statement of financial position, it's going to be your current liabilities. Next thing is that we're going to include trade payables, then other payables. In other payables, I'm going to be showing this prepaid income. Okay. Or we can show it separately as prepaid income too. So now we have learned that my other payables include one, prepaid income, and accrued expenses. Okay. Now, this is how we show it in statement of financial position. Next thing is how to show it in statement of profit or loss. Okay. In statement of profit or loss, again you will have two balances, and in your current liabilities here above in current assets, we only show the closing balance. Okay, in statement of financial position, you always show the closing balance, closing prepaid income, closing accrued expenses, closing accrued income. Okay, in your statement of profit or loss, again you will have opening prepaid income. Opening prepaid income is income received in advance during last year, but belongs to current year because in current year we will be providing the services for it. Okay, similarly we have closing prepaid income. This is going to be income received in advance during current year, but belongs to next year. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, same thing that we did for the prepaid expenses. I am going to take payments received during the year. Okay. Then I will add opening prepaid. Why? Because it belongs to the current year. Okay. And I will minus closing prepaid income. The treatment for prepayments is same for expenses and incomes, and the treatment for accruals is same for expenses and income. Okay. Then you get balance of income taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay, this is in a simple format. We'll learn how to do it in form of a ledger account too. Okay, let's see. Again, as it is a liability, opening balance will be on credit side. Okay. Opening balance will be on credit side as it's a liability, so opening income account prepaid. Opening and closing balances are opposite to each other always. So this is closing prepaid. Okay, then obviously I would have received money, so bank debit and income account credit. Okay, payments received, and then the balancing figure will be taken to statement of profit or loss. Balancing figure, income taken to statement of profit or loss, or you can also write income. You don't have to write these definitions that I'm writing below here, this and this is for your understanding as how to do it. Okay, so income taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay, now we will balance the account, and lastly it will be taken to your next year opening balance. This closing will be taken to next year opening. This is balance profit. Okay, this is how you prepare a ledger account in case of prepaid incomes. Okay, now we're done with individually for all the balances. Next thing is that we need to learn how to do them when they are all given together at once. Okay, so let's see that as well. Okay, so this is done. So now let's learn the accumulative way to prepare your income and expenses account if you are given with both accruals and prepayments. Okay, so I'm going to divide this into half. On one side we're going to do incomes, and then on the other side we're going to do expenses. Okay, okay, so on this side first I'm going to pick up expenses. Okay, for expenses we will take payments made during the year. We will add we will add closing accruals and opening prepayments. And then we will subtract opening accruals and closing prepayments, because these two are the balances which does not belong to the current year, and these two are the balances which belongs to the current year but either are not paid yet or are were paid last year in advance. Okay, again, what is it? This is the balance of expenses taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay, now same thing if we do in ledger account. First year opening balances, balance brought down. On debit side, this is for prepaid opening. Balance brought down, this is your accrued opening. Okay. Then payments made, bank account credit, expenses account debit. Bank, this is for payments made. Okay. Next thing is we will include the closing balances. So for prepaid closing, Prepaid opening, prepaid closing, opposite. Okay. Prepaid opening, then prepaid closing. Okay. Accrued opening, accrued closing. This is accrued opening, opposite is accrued closing. Now, in expenses account, always whenever you take the balance to statement of profit or loss, it will be expenses account credit and statement of profit or loss debit. So expenses account credit, statement of profit or loss. Okay. Incurred during the current year. Okay. Expenses incurred during the current year. Okay. Then we will balance the account and take the opening balances for the next year. So what do we need to do now? Bring down the balances to the next year. Okay, so this balance will come here and this balance will come here. Okay, that is it for expenses. Now let's move on to incomes. For incomes, again, what we will do, we will take the payments received during the year. Okay, same thing, we will add closing accruals and we will add opening prepayments and then subtract the opening accruals and closing prepayments. This will give me the income that needs to be taken to statement of profit or loss. Okay. Next is you need to include a ledger account. How to prepare a ledger account? When we have all the balances, so again, now balance brought down. Okay. Debit side balance brought down would be my asset. Asset is your accrued income. Okay. For income, it's accrued income. Income we have not yet received, but we have provided the services for. Then on credit side, it's going to be prepaid incomes, brought down balance, opening balance. Next is we need to include the closing balances or first the payments received. So bank account debit, income account credit. Next, we include the closing balances opposite. So first, for accrued income, opening balances on debit, closing will be credit. The next we have is closing prepayments, which is going to be on debit side. So balance, carried down. This is your prepaid closing. Prepaid closing balance. Then after that, we need to include the balance that we take to our statement of profit or loss. So the balance taken to statement of profit or loss for income will always be statement of profit or loss credit and your income account debit. Here it was statement of profit or loss debit and expenses account credit. Okay, here it's going to be income account debit and statement of profit or loss credit. So on debit side of income account, statement of profit or loss, income earned during current year. Okay. Then again, we will balance the account, bring down the closing balances to the next year of opening. So these balances will be balance brought down here and balance brought down here. That is the main summary of your income and expenses in case of accruals and prepayments. And this thing applies to all different types of incomes and expenses. Rent, insurance for expenses, commissions, interest received for incomes, and many more. It can be anything for that matter. Okay. Now, we already know how to put them in our statement of financial position. In statement of financial position, it's going to be in your statement of financial position, we are going to include expenses, other receivables. Other receivables will include your accrued income and prepaid expenses. Other payables will include your prepaid income and accrued expenses. That is the main summary of it. That is it for accruals and prepayments. Next, we will be moving forward to questions. Okay, this is the main summary of accruals and prepayments. And notes, these notes will be provided to you as well. So that's it. Now I will see you in the next lecture where we do questions of it. Till then, bye bye.